Nembhard got to get himself involved.
Layup, bank shot's good. Tyrese Haliburton makes it a 4-point game. Nembhard pushing it up the floor, double team. Knocked away, gets it back. Toppin wanted to shoot, Caruso wouldn't let him. Nesmith drills it, rattles it home. Nesmith with his third three-pointer. Every time OKC gets a little breathing room, the Pacers have an answer. Nembhard steps back, three-pointer. Got a three-pointer from Nembhard. It's a three-point game with 1:59 remaining. He's hit some big threes in his brief playoff career. Some anxiety here for the fans in Oklahoma City. The Thunder clinging to this three-point lead. SGA the drive inside, shot blocked. Siakam throws it back. Nembhard to Nesmith, up top, Toppin. Under a minute remaining. Nembhard and Wallace. Step back, three-pointer. Short, rebound, the follow. Siakam puts it in. SGA has it. There's about a 9-second difference, shot clock and game clock. Gilgeous-Alexander spins, pulls up, jumper. Off the mark, won't go. Rebound, Nesmith. The Pacers with a chance to win it. Final seconds, no fouls to give. Haliburton looking. Haliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 0.3 of a second remaining. Timeout, OKC. Tyrese Haliburton does it again. Their first lead of the game. This crowd absolutely stunned as the Pacers take a 1-point lead. Caruso looking, throws it up on the rim, knocked away, and Indiana takes game one. Shocking the Thunder here at OKC. The comeback kids do it again.
Hello, Pacers fans, and welcome back to the Pacers Fever Show. I'm your host, Logan, and today we're diving into yet another unbelievable chapter in this magical Indiana Pacers playoff run. Game one of the NBA Finals was nothing short of miraculous. The Pacers once again defying all odds with a jaw-dropping comeback on the road in OKC. And who else but Tyrese Haliburton to seal it? 4 clutch shots, game-tying, game-winning, season-defining. He's not just the face of the franchise right now. He is Captain Clutch. We'll take a look back at how the Pacers pulled off an improbable Game 1 win, but our main focus today is turning our attention to Game 2. What adjustments will the Thunder make? Can Indiana keep riding this wave of momentum? All that and more coming up right here on the Pacers Fever Show. Let's get into it. Welcome back. I am over on YouTube at the Pacers Fever Show. If you want to watch the video version of this podcast, we have a rundown over there where we have a list of talking points and topics that we will get into in today's episode. We will recap again Game 1 just because of how monumental that could be in this NBA Finals and the games going forward. But we're also anywhere you can find audio podcast as well. So if you don't want to watch the video version, you can switch over to Apple or Spotify. We can be found anywhere that podcasts are, and we really appreciate the support so far. It has been a magical run. I just started this podcast this season at the beginning of the postseason. We did a preview about the Pacers and the Bucks in that game, or that first round series in the Eastern Conference. And from that point on, it has been nothing short of probably one of the most magical playoff runs that any team has had in the NBA as far as long as this existed. Sorry, I can't speak today. It's unbelievable. I mean, you look at this team and the things that they have done, the improbable wins that they've had. And it's funny because as a Pacers fan, you know how far this dates back to. We had a couple of games in March where it was a similar type of comeback late in the game where the win percentages, I think, in some of those March games were also 2 to 3%. And it is funny because they'll use the postseason clips and highlights from all of the rounds that the Pacers have done this in, because they've done this in every single round so far where they've had these improbable wins. I would love for them to, somebody tag ESPN, ABC, whoever you need to tag or share this with, to go back and look at those March games, I think one was against the Kings, once against the I don't even want to try. I'm going to screw it up, but I know one was against Sacramento. There was a couple other games too where the likelihood of the Pacers winning was right around 2%, maybe below that, and they come back and win those games too in March. So put together a video montage of the couple of games throughout the regular season where they've done this, and also now the postseason, which they've done this every single round. And we'll talk a little bit about just how magical that run has been as we go through some of these talking points that we have laid out for today's episode. So that first talking point, game 2 of the NBA Finals will be taking place on Sunday, June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Wish it was on TNT, but it will be on ABC. It is at 8 o'clock, so it is 30 minutes earlier than the game that took place on Thursday evening, which took place at 8:30. I think there's only 2 games throughout the series. I think game 6 or 7 is also, it's game 7, if needed, is also at 8 o'clock. But games 3 through 6 are on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, if those games are needed, 5 and 6. So you can find the Pacers on ABC. That is not going to change, but the times are. So make sure you're aware that Sunday's game is 30 minutes earlier than the last tip-off. But what a win, huh? I mean, we continue to jump on these podcast episodes, and you probably listen to a lot of Pacers content. If you're listening to this, you've gone through maybe some Locked On Pacers with Tony East or with Alex and Facci over on Setting the Pace, or you've listened to the 1070 fan guys and with Jeff, KB, and JB, and maybe the sideline guys or whatever it might be. I mean, we've got some great content. Caitlin Cooper is doing some great things with Sam over there. There's so many things I think to digest, and we've got 2 days in between most of these games for you all to digest content. So I'm trying to put some other spins on what happened in tonight, or not tonight, yesterday's performance. It's not tonight. They were unbelievable. Oh yeah, look, I got my Tyrese Haliburton. I'm trying to get out of the way of the mic. That wouldn't go well. Tyrese Haliburton is good at basketball. Obvious shirts. I think Tyler Smith was the one that ended up retweeting this, and I ended up buying it. I've got a couple obvious shirts because they are partners with the Cubs, and so I've got a bunch of Cubs ones that are obvious shirts. But this one's really fun, especially because it just came in the mail 2 days ago before this game, and and then Thursday night happened with Tyrese Haliburton. So unbelievable, though. Just like I said, every day, every passing moment as a Pacers fan watching this team in this postseason, it just defies logic. I think it's so hard to put into words just what this team has been able to do. They were really bad last night. I thought they played pretty poorly for most of that game, especially in the first half. I mean, they were historically bad holding on to the basketball. 19 turnovers in the first half, which was an NBA record for a game, postseason game, I think it was, for turnovers. You don't win games turning the ball over that much, right? 24 times throughout the game. And somehow, some way, against a defense that looks like a defense that I've never seen before, and the intensity and the pressure they put on you as an offense, they were able to settle down in the second half in probably the best atmosphere in the NBA and stole game 1 from the jaws of death once again. And the Thunder now have a really important game coming up in game 2. This is a really good Thunder team. So going back to Indianapolis 1-1 would not shock me. And to be honest with you, Sunday, if they came out and beat Indiana by 15 or 20, that wouldn't shock me just because of how good this team has been throughout the season. They have won over 80 games, regular season and postseason combined. So this is not a bad team. They've lost 19 games in this season, 2025, with postseason and regular season combined. They hadn't lost since March of 2024 on their home floor against an Eastern Conference team. You know who that Eastern Conference team was? The Indiana Pacers. Their next loss comes in 2025 in June in the NBA Finals against the Eastern Conference team. The first time they lose on their floor against an Eastern Conference team is in the NBA Finals, and it's once again these Pacers. A historic run. And this is exactly what you want as a sports fan, right? We've had to go through all of these conversations. I mean, it happens every round of, well, this team's not healthy. Well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And they're going to continue to do it. I was listening to a bunch of national podcasts today, and even, I love Zach Lowe, love Bill Simmons. I love Wendy. I love all those guys. I think they provide really good content. The guys on the Hoops Collective podcast, right? But they're wrong. Like, it's not miraculous when it happens all the time, right? Like, there becomes a point where it's not just the outlier, it's the trend, right? And this has been the trend. Indiana has, of course, defied the odds, but have done it consistently through the regular season in these playoffs. So it's not just that they're doing this miraculously, that it's a one-off, that you got hoodwinked, like you got bamboozled. This is an Indiana team that has done this multiple times, that has proven that they can do this. And you cannot say that it's a miraculous thing, like them hitting these shots, because it's become that norm for this Pacer team. And I use miraculous in my my little intro of the podcast because I think it's funny that people continue to just say, well, it's a miracle that this team is doing what they're doing. Somewhat, yeah, but when you do it at a larger sample size of 6 to 10 games throughout the regular season and postseason combined, it's less miraculous. I mean, Tyrese Haliburton is shooting like over 75% in these big moment games. He's above 90% in these game tying or game winning game shots. So it's, again, I continue to laugh at just how the national media tries to cover this team, because while I do enjoy a lot of their content, I have a hard time agreeing with the idea that this is just one of those magical once in a lifetime opportunity kind of things where the Pacers are just, and there's a lot of talk of team of destiny, and I joke about it, but I mean, it really does. It feels like they are a team of destiny, but in that it's not like this team has been poor throughout the regular season. It's not like this team has come in and been one of the most average teams in the NBA and they're going on this magical run, upending everybody. They've been the second best team in this league for the last 4 months, 3 or 4 months. So I just don't like that they pretend that this Pacer team has just come out of nowhere. And they have, because a lot of the national media doesn't care enough to cover this team or care enough to look at this team and haven't looked at this team. So absolutely, they feel like they've gotten blindsided by this Pacer team. But those that have been watching them for so long, you know what this has been like over the last 4 months. You know how special this has been. You know how great Tyrese Haliburton is. You know how much of a dog Andrew Nembhard can be. They don't even know half the time who they're talking about. They'll keep going back and forth between Nesmith and Nembhard. Like they don't know which ones are which. It's just, it's funny. I continue to kind of criticize the national media just because I get that when you don't cover them, right? I get when you don't, but when you start to cover them and talk about them, they're still out of touch with a lot of what this team can do. And it's not all national media, obviously. You know the ones that I'm talking about. They are on a particular channel that this NBA Finals is broadcasted on. Those national media members, the ESPN crew, they're the ones that are making these really weird comments. And it's like, do you even watch? Do you even understand? I get that you played basketball, but you weren't great at basketball. A majority of those players that are talking on the sidelines were at best 8 to 10 options off of benches. And Kendrick Perkins, he's he is probably worse than Stephen A at this point. I mean, he is so unhinged in the things that he says. And I just, you should lose a lot of credibility when things like this happen. If you continue to talk about the Pacers the way that you did, and the Pacers continue to do what they're doing. you should lose credibility in the fact that you're saying things that are not true. But I'll get off my soapbox. I love the way that Wendy covers the Pacers. I love the way that Legler does because they have an appreciation for them. Bill Simmons has an appreciation for the Pacers. They have watched Pacer games. You can tell. Zach Lowe is a great national media person, right? All these guys are really good because they watch the games, but these talking heads on ESPN have no idea what they're talking about. No clue. Like they are far out of touch with whatever's happening on a basketball court. Their IQ has to be below that of an average NBA player at this point. Like it just baffles me that ESPN has made that decision to continue to employ some of these people that are tearing this league down because all they want to talk about is who the next head coach for the New York Knicks is going to be when you've got the NBA finals happening between two teams that have been historic in their own rights. So again, ESPN, I mean, I was listening to Adam Silver's press conference yesterday and he was talking about, how they're constantly working in the NBA office of how they make this league more marketable and some of these stars and mid-market teams, right? Well, you can start by eliminating whatever that is on ESPN that covers your league because that is the point in which people go to for their information. They used to be the worldwide leader of sports. They are now the worldwide leader of just laughable commentary. It's become so disgusting the way that they cover basketball on ESPN. It's just I love Mike Breen and I love Doris Burke. And I actually think Richard Jefferson is wonderful at what he does. But that studio crew and his crew around him and some of the players that they have on Get Up and all these other channels, I've got major issues with just because they are doing a disservice to these players, to this league, to the brothers that they have on these rosters that they've been on these rosters with. They are sorry, I'm getting on my rant but I just dislike it's not fair to the Thunder. It's not fair to the Pacers. It's really not fair to anybody outside of the New York Knicks. It's really not. So again, the Knicks are enjoying their time in Cancun or partying like they're going to win the 2026 NBA Finals with most of the players that aren't even going to be there next season anyway because they're going to trade all of them. But yeah, I'm feeling feisty today just because I really didn't turn on. I watched Adam Silver's press conference. I didn't turn on NBA Countdown because it's just a joke at this point. Scott Van Pelt, like I don't know how people like Scott Van Pelt and Legler and them can work. I mean, they're so professional because it would take everything in my being not to say something smart ass to these people. It just it's unbelievable at this point. Like I don't know how they do it. Like Mike Greenberg and how do people cover this league and have some of these players and former players on these broadcasts and go, did you actually play the game? Like, no wonder you were bench people. No wonder you didn't last long in the league. It's mind boggling. But anyway, again, it's like 50-50 split. And I love that Shaq basically bombarded the crew. And Bob Myers is really good. He was in the front office for Golden State. He's excellent. Really good. Scott Van Pelt, Wendy. I keep naming them all because they do have 50% of them that are excellent at what they do. Great journalists, great in covering the game, understand the game. But then you've got the alumni, the NBA alums on ESPN, and then all of the Knicks crew on ESPN. They just ruin everything that is good about this league. So off my soapbox, I go into the game because that's what we want to talk about. We want to get positive here. But I was just so tired of it. Anyway, Pacers win a 111-110. The Pacers are 13-0 when they score over 110 or 110 points and more. The Pacers are 13-0 in the playoffs. The Thunder are 1-5 when they've let their opponent score more than 110 points. So that 110 mark seems to be where we can use that in the series to determine who's going to win these games. Now, I could see some low-scoring affairs in this series just because the Thunder have really struggled shooting the basketball, and then having to score against this defense at times can be just very difficult. The Thunder are so good defensively. I mean, just watching them, when you really appreciate basketball, you appreciate what Oklahoma City just means, right? The fans, Dagnall, like they are great at what they've built, what they do. Sam Presti, I mean, he'll go down as one of the best executives to ever walk this planet. So again, I just kudos to OKC. It's a lot of fun. This series is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a long series. I think that we're going to have some really great games, and it'll be a very tough task for the Pacers to eliminate this team just because of how historic they have been throughout this season. They've got some really great young players, and their future is very bright as well as the Pacers. So, like I said, game 2 happening on Sunday. But before we do that, let's jump into some of the stuff from game 1, some of the notes, a little bit of a game 1 recap right here. Right now, in game 6 of the Pacers first round matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks, they trailed 7 points with 35 seconds remaining and ended up winning that game. In game 2 of the Pacers second round matchup with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they trailed by 7 points with 48 seconds remaining and win that game on a Tyrese Haliburton step back. In game 1 of the Pacers Eastern Conference matchup series with the New York Knicks, they trailed by 14 points with 2.51 remaining in the fourth quarter. Aaron Nesmith goes for 30 points and annihilates the New York Knicks in that game. Pacers go on to win that after a Tyrese Haliburton step back that tied the game, sent it to overtime, and the Pacers wrangled control and ultimately flattened the Knicks for that series. I think game 1 was, I was listening to 1070 The Fan with Kevin Bowen, with Jeff and JB, and they were talking about this, and I totally agree with what Kevin said. He said that some of these games in the postseason, when you win games like this, have more of an effect than just one win. I feel like the mental weight of game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals, that win by the Pacers, was worth like 1.5, 2 games for Indiana mentally, and the chokehold that they had on the Knicks, pun intended. But yeah, I really, looking back at these games, we're getting ready to talk about the odds of this happening because I've got a really fun stat shared in last night's video, but I'll share again here. In game 1 of the Pacers NBA Finals matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, they trailed by 9 with 2 minutes and 52 seconds left and end up winning that game. So I'm going to go through Twitter because I favorited a bunch of things. So bear with me, but here's some tweets and some interesting stats. So this is from The Athletic, and this is via Sports Center. Teams trailing by 9+ points in the final 3 minutes of the NBA Finals games are 1-182 since 1971. That one win was this Pacers win last night against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder missed 30. So these are just random stats from last night's game as just kind of a game 1 recap without going through a lot of the plays. I think reading some of this is fun just because these are fascinating to me, and I hope they're fascinating for you all as well. But the Thunder missed 31 of 54 shots in the paint, and Dub and Chet missed 20 of 28 shots overall. In a game, OKC lost by 1 point. So there's a lot of silver lining there, maybe for Thunder fans, but there might be some silver lining there for the Pacers in the fact that when Shea's not scoring 50 points, you can pretty much limit this Thunder team if you play the defense that you played in game 1. I thought that they played really well defensively off the ball to keep J-Dub and Chet, especially, off the score sheet. And I think they need Chet to produce 15+ points a game in this series. But Miles Turner's defense last night on Chet Holmgren was far and away one of the biggest things that I think people are not talking about, just how good he was defensively on Holmgren. Haliburton is 5 of 5 on game tying, and this is from Carson Breber. I don't know how you say his last name, but he's really great too. He does the Nerd Sesh podcast. Haliburton is 5 of 5 on game tying and go-ahead shots in the last 10 seconds of the fourth quarter / overtime in these playoffs. The rest of the NBA combined is 4 for 24 on those shots. Hallie has also made the most such shots in a single postseason in the play-by-play era since 1996-1997 season. Go-ahead game-tying field goals attempts in the final 2 seconds of regulation or overtime. This postseason, Tyrese Haliburton 4 for 4. The rest of the NBA 1 for 13. The only person that made a shot was Aaron Gordon, and that was against this OKC team back in game 1 of the Western Conference semifinal matchup between those two teams. Tyrese Haliburton is shooting 100% in the playoffs when games are in clutch situations over the final 30 seconds of regulation. The Thunder threw 208 passes, the fewest for any team in any game all season. Adjusted for pace, it's the second fewest in a playoff game in the tracking era. Emphasizes how Indiana shut off OKC's offensive flow last night. Like I said, there is so much conversation about how good defensively OKC was, but the claws and the clamp, the claw, the claw junior, Aaron Nesmith, and Andrew Dog Nimhard, Nimhell were just great in last night's game, and a big reason why these Pacers won. Bob Kravitz, weird stat. Teams that win game one win the series 70.5% of the time. So that's really low for a 7-game series in the NBA Finals. But teams that win game one on the road are only 8 and 10, 44%. That's crazy. Like that's insane. Like it's not really favoring the Pacers there, but I expect the Thunder to even this series out before it goes back to Indianapolis in game 2, giving away my prediction early. But that being said, we've seen crazier things, right? Keep doubting the Pacers. Like here's a Pacer podcast doubting the Pacers, but game 2, man, I expect this game to go, or this series to go 6, and to do that, I really do. I believe OKC has to win this game on Sunday, because then you could start to talk about maybe it ending in 5, depending. So I don't know. We will see. But those were just some really fun stats that I pulled up today that were relatively new, and I know some of those were being spewed out last night as well, but I wanted to go through that because I thought they were very interesting. Again, from Carson, who does the Nerd Sesh podcast over there, he says that J-Dub wins this postseason for the Thunder averages 21.7 points per game on 57.8% true shooting. Chet and wins 17 points per game on 62.3% true shooting. In OKC losses, J-Dub averages 16.8 points per game on 44% true shooting. And then Chet and losses 13 points per game on 48.5% true shooting. So you've seen what happens when those two are limited in their role and their offenses not doing as well. It's typically because those two and young players. I mean, that's another thing we talked about a lot previewing this series, is that no matter how many games you have played in this postseason that have been crunch time kind of moments, and they only had that really against Denver, they still have not played as many crunch time games and in high intensity, high level, high leverage games as the Pacers in the last 2 postseasons, because the Pacers have been in some absolute dogfights the last 2 postseasons and had to play the NBA champions last year and the Boston Celtics and gave them their run for their money, even though it was a sweep. It was the closest sweep, I think, in NBA history as far as the postseason is concerned, based off a point differential. So this Pacers team has been through gauntlets of teams. I mean, the Knicks are a good team, right? There's no denying that. The Cavs are a good team. I know they were a little bit banged up. And playing against Giannis is very difficult. But last night felt very similar to that, playing against Giannis, where the Pacers were kind of funneling SGA into difficult shots and making him work for his, and then limiting everybody else around him. And that's what the big deal was last night in that game. But we continue to see performances from players that the national media have no idea what their names are. And Andrew Nembhard, who is in the regular season shot 29.1% from 3. And in the 2025 playoffs, he's shooting 47% from 3. That's crazy. And he's locking people down, putting you through Nim hell. Another fun one from Evan Sidery, and he works with Forbes, NBA correspondent for Forbes. SGA shot 5 of 17 when guarded by Andrew Nembhard or Aaron Nesmith in game 1 of the finals. SGA versus Nembhard was 3 of 9. SGA versus Nesmith, 2 of 8. SGA converted only 29.4% of his looks when the Pacers' 2 best defenders were on him. When I say that these two will, if healthy, will be in all defensive team conversations together. They will. They are that good. like they talk about Lou Dort and they talk about Cason Wallace and they'll talk about Alex Caruso, but my goodness, put some respect on Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Nesmith. They are that good. This is now the fourth playoff win with less than a 2.1% win probability, and that comes from the Pacers. They've done that. It's just irrational at this point. It doesn't make any sense. Jay Williams tweeted that. Again, it's fun after these games, and it's increased in the amount that it happens because of the rounds that they've gone through. So this happened with the Knicks, and you got a ton of that coverage because it happened to the Knicks, right? It's the media's darling that it happened to in this last series. But the fact that it happened on an even bigger stage in the NBA Finals, everybody across sports today is talking about this. That's how special this was. And for 47 minutes, Pacers were just very not good. Right? Could have worded that better, but they just weren't good. So that's kind of the stuff I was going to talk about for game one recap. Pointing out huge moments. I mean, in that fourth quarter, there were a lot of really big moments. But like I said, I mean, the Pacers are down 15 points when Jay Williams steals the ball, runs out, and dunks it. And the Pacers really, I mean, it did. It felt like that was it. I mean, you're up 15 against this defense with 9:42 left in the fourth. It's 94-79. OKC fans were feeling it, but then the timeout happens, and Rick Carlisle went with what Mike Breen called the hockey change, the hockey subs, because every single player on the floor went out. So Mathurin was out, Bryant went out, McConnell, Shepard, and Siakam. Turner, Toppin, Nesmith, Nemhard, and Haliburton check in. And then after that, from that point on, massive shots. Obi Toppin was huge in the fourth quarter. Miles Turner was really big in the second half as well and hit a really big three on a bank shot that I thought had no chance. But once he hit that, it really did feel like they're going to do this again, aren't they? They're going to make this where they have a chance to win it at the end of the game. And my goodness, did they. But you look at just how good the Pacers were in that fourth quarter. It was a masterful performance in a clutch situation, and the Pacers continue to do things that nobody else can do. If you combine the 4 games that they've won in those improbable ways that we just talked about, it was 1 in 75 million chance they win all those games. That stat alone is just mind-boggling. I mean, you would never have a team do this again. Like, you could never have a team do this again. They will forever be a team that has defied the odds like this at those odds. And I'm not sure there's a team that even comes close to doing what this Pacer team has done in those 4 games. Not in the same playoff stretch. There's no way. It's mind-boggling. I run out of words to try to describe it. But looking at the game, first half, the Thunder's defense did enough to win them this game. OKC took 16 more shots than the Pacers, but their offense couldn't convert any of those extra possessions. Notably, the Thunder only had 11 points off of those 25 turnovers. The Pacers have been one of the best three-point shooting teams in the playoffs, while the Thunder have been one of the worst. Entering game 1 of the finals, Indiana was shooting 41% from behind the arc. No other team was even at 38%, and OKC was making just 33.6% of its attempts, which is ranked 13 out of the 16 playoff teams. The Pacers shot 18 of 39, 46.2% from downtown on Thursday, while the Thunder were 11 of 30, 36.7%. This was the 10th time in 17 playoff games that the Pacers have shot at least 40% from 3, and their 21-point advantage in this category was one of the main reasons they overcome that huge turnover problem. In the fourth quarter, the Pacers made 6 of their 10 3-point attempts. Toppin and Turner knocked down 4 in a 2.5-minute window that helped jumpstart that comeback, including the one that Turner hit and banked off from the side, while Aaron Nesmith made another huge corner 3 that just rattled in. And then Andrew Nemhard, probably the most impressive 3 of them all, hit a little step back put a nice saucy move on his Canadian compadre and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, lost Shea and put up a pretty contested shot even then because Shea's lengthy and could kind of get back to his face and buried it. Nothing but net. And then one last thing from the game one recap, I guess, is the Thunder players besides SGA combined for just 72 points on 25 of 68 shooting, 36.7%. People will ask, why is that? What happened? Pacers defense was really good last night. They have two of the best wing defenders in the league in Nembhard and Nesmith. But I think ultimately, there's something else that you can factor into it. And I know I keep harping on this and people will argue, but it's still, J-Dub and Chet don't really have that much experience in these really high leverage, high pressure cooking kind of situations. And I think you see that at times, right? And J-Dub is going to be a number 2 option. He's going to be a very good player in this league and is a good player in this league already, but I'm talking like he's got star potential. But there's still those moments that a young player has, right? In just his second playoff appearance, as far as years are concerned, that you're going to have those moments, right? Where they're just not falling for you. I think J-Dub is a exceptional player and somebody that's probably going to be underrated for a very long time in this league. But you could see it, and I don't know if some of it was to do with the fact that really these Thunder players haven't really had to have much pressure on them all season. They've kind of just coasted in most of these postseason matchups and regular season matchups. Really, the only time being tested was that Denver series. They were down 1-0 and they were also down 2-1 and came back to beat that Denver team. And mind you, right? In talking to that, people will say, man, Denver's a great team. I'm scared of what that means for the Pacers going forward. And yes, like I said, the Thunder could very well still win the series and come back and they could win 3 or 4 straight. Like they're that good defensively. But I think you also have to take into consideration the fact that the way that Denver plays, the way that Minnesota plays, you could even throw Memphis in here, I guess, very ISO heavy with one player. Like Anthony Edwards has to get his. And there's not a lot around Anthony Edwards besides Randall, who had gone on that streak where really that's all you had to worry about was Julius Randle getting hot. But other than that, all you had to do was shut down, cut off the head of the snake, which the head of the snake is Anthony Edwards. Same thing with Denver. Caruso played him very well, cut off the head of the snake, and forced Jamal Murray to try to beat you, and he wasn't healthy. Michael Porter Jr. was playing with like one arm. Aaron Gordon is a very, very streaky player. He played well in that series, but not like the number 2 option you need. Whereas I think what the Pacers pose is they hit you from 5, 6, 7 different directions. Look at the box score tonight. 6 players in double figures. You don't get that from Denver. You don't get that from Minnesota, right? So I think that's where the challenge is defensively is every single one of them have to be excellent on defense. And then playing that defense against the Pacers offense that just moves so much. People always want to talk about their pace, but look at how much, even though the Pacers aren't the greatest half-court offense, they do have times where they struggle in the half-court, but just look at how much they move teams. And when you have to move that much defensively, I don't care how good of shape you're in, that wears your legs out, and you might not have the same lift to shoot shots. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. This Thunder's team is very deep and they run a lot of players and they're not playing a ton of minutes like the Knicks were. But I still think that those players that they rely heavily on had to pick up 90 feet sometimes and pressure Tyrese and pressure every single person on the ball. So I think eventually it does. If you've ever played defense before in high leverage situations and intense games, the defense, no matter how good of shape you're in, it wears you down. Like your legs get tired. Like you might not be fatigued, but your legs do wear. Your muscles do get worn out. And you don't necessarily feel it sometimes because of the adrenaline, but playing defense for 48 minutes like they do, it's going to be exhausting. Like that's what they signed up for. And I think you saw it in the second half. The Pacers just wear you down. And they didn't even get out and run. Like, I think they said the Pacers didn't really have any fast break points, or they had 0 fast break points. I think I read that somewhere. Like, let me check, see if that's right, 'cause, somebody said that today. I was like, "There's no way that they had 0 fast break points." But then I started to think about it, I'm like, I don't really remember any fast break points. 10. Okay. So they lied. I was like, there's no way they had 0. 10. I mean, I guess that's 0 considering the pace they usually play with. I don't know what they meant by that then, because somebody said, yeah, they didn't score a single. Try ESPN, I'll blame them. But yes, they had 10 fast break points, so that's not true. But still, they didn't get out and run like they normally do. The Pacers didn't. So maybe they meant like those real leak out ones that you have where like Tyrese hits Pascal running down the floor. Maybe that's what they meant, and I misheard it. But anyway, correcting my mistake. They did have 10 fast break. I was dumb on that one. But overall, I just didn't feel like the Pacers played with that much pace in this game and still score 111 points and still scored 66 points in the second half. They had 45 points in the first half, 66 in the second. And they really did. You go back and I watched some of the highlights, like condensed highlights for that second half. They started doing things against that defense that is going to work going forward. And it'll be really interesting to see if OKC goes back to their normal starting lineup, which I thought was very strange that they decided that game 1 of the finals. And some people were like, "Oh, that was a gutsy move by Dagnall. Like he was really trying to play chess there, and it almost worked, or it did work for a while." When you do stuff like that, you also have to think about the consequences of what happens after that too. It's not just looking at what immediately the immediate impact it might have. You got to look at how it played out throughout the game. And some of those easy buckets that Pascal had because of Case and Wallace, because of Alex Caruso at times, and because Hartenstein isn't really accustomed to playing with the second unit as much, you do lose some points there because you've impacted the way that those units like to operate with one another, if that makes sense. So by all means, try the smaller lineup. The front court of the Pacers was feasting on Oklahoma City early in the front court, and I tweeted about it. But then it was once they started to get Hartenstein in there and they kind of switched up the assignments, did the Pacers start to really struggle, and Caruso just changes games. And he's always been that way against the Pacers. He's always caused Tyrese a lot of problems, but you know, that was something I thought we can work forward to or look forward to in the next game, is to see how OKC adjusts. Takeaways from game 1, a couple of things. The Pacers seem to have figured out ways that they can infiltrate this crazy defense in that second half, like scoring 30 points in both the third and fourth, like 30 plus points in the third and fourth of the quarter of this game was huge. And that's not typical for the Thunder to allow people to do that. So that's something you can take away. Another takeaway is the Pacers aren't going to turn the ball over 25 more times, like in a game. So that'll come down and you'll get more possessions, more shots. And we've seen what happens when the Pacers get more shots. They are very effective in hitting those. They really didn't face guard Tyrese as much as I thought they would. Like there were a lot of possessions where they pick him up half court. I think you're actually more effective when you take him completely out of the game. But something that happened in the second half when I went back and watched what people I think understand happen, but don't really know. Like Andrew Nembhard completely changed the second half from the start because he took over. I mean, they put a lot of possession in Andrew Nembhard in that last stretch of the game. And it was something that we hadn't really seen Rick do a whole lot and had a lot of success with. But his usage rate in that second half was very different from what they did in the first. The first half, they really tried to get Tyrese going, but they just couldn't get him free enough. And Andrew Nembhard completely changed that game in the way that he was able to work and operate to getting the offense going in that second half after the halftime adjustments. He was a lot different. And I think that's why you saw a lot of success with the Pacers in the second half. Because if you look at the stats, 5 assists in the second half for Andrew Nembhard. He had 10 points. He was the maestro. He gave the ball up or he got the ball more often than Tyrese did, especially I think it was over 25 or right around 25% in the fourth quarter that he was the one that was the primary ball handler. So again, the adjustments that Rick Carlisle made at the half changed the way that this game looked. And that's why we continue to talk about how good Rick is, just because allowing and trusting Andrew Nembhard to be the one operating the offense and attacking Shea was the turning point and allowed freedom more so for Haliburton, but everybody else involved too. Like Nembhard was a lot more successful at getting to good spots in the paint. So I think there's a lot to work with going forward. And that's one thing after leaving game one, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton, there's a video of them. Tyrese is, dabbing him up after the game. And he goes up to Pascal and he says, job's done in game one, got more to do, got job to do in game two. And Pascal says, yeah, we got a job to do. And we didn't even play that well. And Tyrese said, yeah, we didn't play well. And then they kind of walk off. But the fact that they are very aware that they didn't play well in this game, pulled it out, but have a lot that they can improve on, I think that's really good for a team. Just because, like we've said, when you win games in the postseason, a lot of times there's just not too many adjustments. But because of how bad they played for a lot of this game, they'll have a lot to go back to the drawing board about, and things will change. And they've got 2 days in between to figure it out. I've got a lot of confidence in what Rick and his team can pull out of what happened in that first half to make sure it doesn't happen again, and can get a lot better in those moments. So those are my takeaways from game one. I mean, just an overall great performance from Nembhard and Nesmith, and then that clutch shot by Haliburton, an excellent second half by Obi Toppin once he got settled in, and they just got the production that they needed to pull this game out miraculously, as some would say. So moving on to game two, adjustments that OKC can make. I think getting even more in the grill of Tyrese Haliburton, right? Eliminating that option more so. I think there is going to be maybe a decision made, like, do you throw more defensive attention at Andrew Nembhard too? Do you take Lou Dort and put him on Tyrese, but then maybe put J-Dub on Nembhard and go with a bigger lineup? Or like, do you insert Caruso into the lineup? Like, I don't know what the Thunder can really do as far as they seem to be very tempting to shift around their lineups. So I'm interested to see what maybe there's some rotational changes. But again, I think Nembhard exposed something yesterday because he oftentimes found Shea on him, and Shea's a good defender, like a really good defender, but not like Caruso or Kaysen or Dort. I don't think he's that good. He is very good, but not that level of good, is what I meant to say. He is a very good defender still. But another thing too, OKC trying to find more opportunity for Chet to get involved. He tried to beat Miles Turner on the dribble, and Miles would lose like a step on him. But because of how good at protecting the rim and getting to shot blocking opportunities for Miles, he was able to catch up to Chet and really forced him to be physical. And Chet didn't like that. Like, he could not get physical with Miles because Miles is much bigger. Chet's longer, but Miles has this ability to be able to brush him off because he's just so much stronger than Chet is. So that'll be something to watch because they really need him to produce at least 15 points per game and maybe even more for them to really get to that level in which they were against Denver and Minnesota at times, where they look like the big three again. But if they can continue to eliminate Chet's effectiveness in this series, then OKC is going to have a very tough time with the Pacers to keep up with their offense. So we will see what happens, what they'll do with Chet. But again, he's such a unique player that a lot of what he relies on is more of those high energy plays where he's getting offensive rebounds or crashing the rim and tipping balls in or beating his guy on the dribble. And then if he gets a smaller defender, then maybe taking advantage of getting into the paint. But a lot of his success is also too founded in the defensive end. And Miles Turner being out there and Obi Toppin and Pascal, they do not let Chet get near the rim. They spread him out. They play those 5-out kind of offenses against it when Chet's out there, and he just can't get back to the rim to defend it. So you don't have a rim protector back there. And especially in these small lineups when Chet's the lone big, when you take him out of it, I mean, it's so easy for the Pacers to attack the paint. And that's what Nembhard had a lot of success with, was that Chet was the only one out there, or Hartenstein. But because the Pacers big spread the floor so well, it's hard for them to get back to protect the rim. And that's why you had a lot of baskets in and around the paint for the Pacers in that second half. And just getting into the paint in general to break down the offense, to get those wide open threes they were getting too. It puts so much pressure on OKC's defense that is very good, but not good enough to where you can have total collapse inside the paint, which I thought they had a lot more of those in the second half, where there were just so many wide open opportunities from the 3-point line. Another OKC adjustment, they've got to find scoring. I mean, they really do. And J-Double, I think, will be better in game 2. I wouldn't be shocked if he had a big game. But you also have to think that you're not going to get that same kind of shooting, I don't think, ever in this series again from Dort, who had shot around 30% from the 3-point line in the postseason. He's so streaky. So I don't know how many more games you can really get like that. And he gave him 15 points because that's all he really does is hit threes, and he defends really well. He's a first team kind of guy, defender, but it leaves so many holes in their offense because they rely so much on Shea just breaking down the defense. But if he's having a hard time getting to his spots, even though he scored 38, he's having a really difficult time getting to his big spots that he likes. And he's missed a couple of big shots down the stretch because of the defense that Nembhard and Nesmith can play on him. And they can kind of interchange those two sometimes, and it gives a different look to SGA. But they're doing exactly what they did against the Bucks, exactly what they did against Donovan and the Cavs and Brunson and the Knicks. Let the other guys try to beat you. Make the other guys try to beat you. And they didn't tonight. And that was the big difference in the offense for OKC, is SGA was beating them, but nobody else was. So that's really important besides Dort. But, I mean, even Caruso didn't have a good night offensively. He wasn't shooting the ball very well either. I think it was under 40%. So that's crew. That's the crew and how they handle the OKC Thunder, and are just so much better defensively than last season, which is a big reason why they've made the NBA Finals this year and are up 1-0. But Pacers adjustments, I think, doing similar what you did on the defensive side. I don't think you really changed anything defensively. You know, boxing out was big. They got some offensive rebounds early that just kept possessions alive, and then limiting those turnovers. Like the possession battle early on in the second half or the first half, like the Thunder were keeping balls alive. They were getting the 50-50 balls. They were getting turnovers. They had 19 of those turnovers, knocking balls away, causing the defense, even the offense, when they didn't turn the ball over, it was clunky because the ball was rattling around and there was a lot of panic play. Tyrese said it because he was mic'd up. He said, I just feel like we're going too fast. I didn't ever feel like I got my breath in the first half. But as he settled into the game, he became more effective in what we see with Tyrese. But so much of that was put on to Nembhard, and Nembhard handled it like a champ. And if he can do that, if he can do what he did in game 1, where he just becomes the maestro when Tyrese can't, it opens up so many more opportunities, and it'll free up Tyrese a little bit. So that'll be an adjustment, is getting Nembhard involved like you did in that second half of game 1. You have to do that in the game 2 situation too. Another adjustment, I think Ben Shepherd really has struggled to defend people at times, but I mean, I don't think he really changed much there because there's not really anything else. I thought Mathurin was pretty good on Shea defensively whenever he was in there. And, SGA is going to get some good shots against Mathurin, but Ben physically, I think, can cause some issues sometimes with SGA. And it's not as easy as sometimes it is with Ben, because Ben's not really going to alter your shot too much. Whereas I think Mathurin's size and his physicality will, like, he just forces you to do different things. So maybe that's the matchup you go more with, where Shepherd can go guard someone else, but maybe like a Caruso or something he'd be more effective against. But I think that's something you have to look at, is helping Ben as much as possible, because I just feel like he really does struggle with SGA. I don't think there was anything really as far as offensively. I mean, it just not turning the ball over. Like, what does it look like if you're not turning the ball over 25 times? I'd love to see that. You just hang on to the basketball, get the 50-50 balls, win the possession battle. It really is those small things that I think the Pacers have to do better, and shoot better in the first half too. Like, they came on late. Like, a lot of their shot making and a lot of their percentages went up because of that second half. Because in the first half, while they were still shooting an effective percentage, it was, they were outshot by like 16, I think, in the first half. So you can't do that. You can't give this team that many more shots and expect to win. You got really lucky, I guess, as some would say, with the three ball, because they just weren't hitting them. But I mean, there was a big margin difference there, where the Pacers were once again shooting the lights out from three, especially towards the end of the game. That just made it so difficult on OKC to handle them. And another thing too is you're getting those corner threes. That is kind of a weakness for the OKC defense, I guess, if you can call it that, where they were getting wide open corner threes. So how do you get more offense into those sections of the court in the corner? Because the Pacers are very good corner shooting, a three corner shooting team. And I think you got to get more into the corners as possible, because you're having a ton of success there of breaking down that defense. A lot of that was like Nembhard and McConnell getting into the paint and getting on the baseline sometimes and distributing the ball from there. And then Pascal Siakam too, like getting him the ball in the paint or at the elbow, and then he can kind of distribute and run you off a screen to that corner. And they were getting some really good looks from the corner on those threes. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I had to say as far as just adjustments for game two for the Pacers. Keys to game two: don't turn the ball over, right? That's key number one. Do what you did in the second half, where you only had 5 turnovers. Under 10 turnovers would be the goal, I would think, against this OKC team. If you get under 10 turnovers against this team, you'll win the game, I think, because of how efficient they are shooting the basketball. Knock down threes. You're going to get open threes. It's just the nature of the beast and playing against this defense, because they blitz so hard that I think sometimes when they try to send doubles or try to send help to different areas on the court to try to make those passing lanes hard to get to, and those lanes even to try to ISO them in, it does allow you to get some uncontested 3-pointers. So I think that's really important for game two as far as the second key. And then third key, 50-50 balls. You got to win those. The possession battle there of not letting them get second looks, because they did let them in to a lot of second look and great looks in that first half. So Pacers have to be better there. Predictions for game two: I'll give you 5 predictions. I think that Jalen Williams has over 20 points in game two. I think he's due for a rebound game. So take that for what it's worth. I still think Chet has under 15 points. I think Miles Turner is enough of an issue where he just causes Chet problems because of how much bigger he is and how well he can defend him, it seems. Prediction number 3, I'm going to say Andrew Nembhard has over 15 points in this game. I think he's found some recipe for success there, and he just seems to really rise to these kind of levels in really big games like this. It's very odd, but I think he's due for a 15-plus game. I'm going to say Miles Turner has 4 blocks in game 2. I think they'll try to get more downhill against Turner, but I think that Miles does present quite an issue for OKC. What was that? That's 4. And then game 5, the prediction number 5, I've got OKC winning this game. And it's not saying or trying to take anything away from the Pacers and any kind of like that, but like, I just can't see it, right? I can't see, every time I get into this, like, there's no way, right, that the Pacers can lead 2-0 coming back home in the finals against this team. I just don't feel it. But we'll see. If they do, they've proven me wrong. I'm not trying to doubt them, but like the odds and just knowing how good this team is and knowing they don't lose a lot of back-to-back games and that if they lose this game, they're in dire straits. I just feel like OKC is going to win this one. Like the intensity defensively will be tightened up, and even though the Pacers might not turn it over as much, I think it'll be a close game. Like I think the Pacers will have an opportunity to win it in the fourth quarter, but I think OKC pull it out. Let me know what your thoughts are on game 2 heading into Sunday, June 8th, again at 8 p.m. Eastern time on ABC. So we'll post this preview. We appreciate the support so far. Just some final thoughts. Like I said, I think the Pacers are in this game 2. I think it'll come down to the last 5 minutes of the game. But for some reason, I've got a feeling that OKC is just not going to let this go down 2-0 because this would be crazy, like a crazy feat if the Pacers in every single series went up 2-0. And then the last 3 series, like including this one, they would have gone up 2-0 while playing the first 2 games the opponent's arena. It would be absurd. So, and if the Pacers win game 2, they'll win the NBA Finals. That's like a bonus prediction. They can somehow pull out game 2, they'll win the NBA Finals. Which is probably not going out on too much of a limb there, but it'll happen. Not that they'll win game 2. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I do think they'll have a chance to win game 2 because I do think that you're going to get a really huge punch from OKC. Like they're going to go down fighting, and I just don't see where they're going to lose this game. But we'll see. Crazy things have happened in these playoffs, and every time I doubt the Pacers, it seems to come back and bite me. So hopefully it does bite me. I'm all for it. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We're on YouTube or at the Pacers Fever Show. Subscribe, like, comment, rate us at Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. Helps people find the show. If you want to join as a co-host for the Fever side of this, where I cover the Indiana Fever as well, or you want to join the Pacers side of it as a co-host, full-time, whatever, just let me know. Send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, X, and we can chat about it. But looking forward to game 2 of the NBA Finals. First time the Indiana Pacers have led in an NBA Final. Incredible. Just a lot of fun watching my first finals game that I really remember everything in. Obviously, 2000, I was only 7, and I remember bits and pieces, like randomly, but not a whole lot. This is a lot of fun. This is the most fun I've ever had, obviously, as a Pacers fan. So let's keep that going. I really appreciate all the support so far and all the comments and nice things that people have been saying about the podcast. So let me know if there's any comments that you have that make this show better, or maybe some things that we can add to enhance the experience for you all. But again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time when we will be